Uh-oh. No, there we go. All right. Oh, I need to spam my Discord. Let's see. So this will be videos and streams. And I need my link. There we go. All right. I have done the spammage. All right. Excellent. All right. Fred, what's up, dude? How you doing? Copper 96 in the house. Hello. You didn't miss anything. We're literally just starting. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live stream. Today we're going to be discussing how to make great D&D adventures, from planning to running the game and other considerations like that. And I have with me today a special guest, and they can see you now. Hey! So this is Duncan Rhodes. Shoot, dude, how long have you been playing the game? I forgot to ask you about that.
Well, since the late 80s.
Late 80s. Oh,
Yeah.
I think so. I think I officially started in like 1996. So you have me beat by probably about a decade. Okay, sweet. So
Yeah, I think it was the very late 80s. So
what edition did
probably
you start with? Was this
89.
what edition did you start with?
Would have been Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I came in
And
second edition. Nice.
it wasn't the second edition, it was the first edition. And then I remember because I've still got the books somewhere in my
Yeah.
parents' house.
Okay.
And
Sweet.
uh, I'd always wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, but I didn't know
Yeah.
how to. And I was 11 years old, and I just was desperate to someone to like initiate me,
Oh
and
yeah.
I found a bunch of kids playing at my school, at my new school, because we changed schools age 11, and we go from primary to secondary school in the UK. And
Okay.
I found these guys. They were playing. It was very. They were playing in the school cloakroom. It was
Yeah.
so basic. We're like sitting on the
Well,
ground
what's a cloakroom?
wearing
Is that a closet?
yeah, basically, yeah. It's where you put your coats.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
so like winter jackets.
So you had to
We there wasn't
like
any.
there was no other place to play. You're like on the floor in the closet playing
Yeah,
D&D.
basically.
Wow, that's crazy. So started playing pretty young, and then you've also published some stuff on DM's Guild, and you also have a book that just came out as well. What is it? The Creative Game Master's Guide to Extraordinary Locations or something like that?
Well remembered.
Did I get it? Oh, nice. It's a
Uh,
long one.
and how to design
And
them.
how to
So
design
yeah,
them. Awesome. That's
subtitle
cool.
as
That's sweet, dude. So, yeah, so today we're just gonna have a conversation, Duncan and I, and just talk about designing D&D adventures and that sort of thing. And then if folks in chat have questions, we'll try to keep an eye there, answer questions and that sort of thing. But so anything else we should know about you? Like, we talked about like the cloakroom, but anything else about you, and D&D or whatever you want to share with folks?
I mean, fascinating stuff. Not really. I did give up Dungeons and Dragons, kind of age 18. I went to university, I'd kind of always intended I'd introduce my new friends at uni to D&D, but there's never any time. And then I actually assumed that everyone had stopped playing, and
Hmm.
I was totally out of the picture.
Yeah.
And then around 10 years ago, I now live in Barcelona, where I'm a travel writer by day. And about 10 years ago, a friend of mine, met him at a concert, and I was like, what have you been up to? Haven't seen him for a long time. And he's just like this party guy. And I thought, oh, he's
Mhm.
going to tell me some stories. It's like, oh no, I've just been like chilling out. And he kind of looked almost a bit embarrassed and a bit sheepish. He was like, I'm just chilling out playing Dungeons and Dragons. I was like, grabbed him
Yeah,
by the lapel of his shirt. I was like, what? Playing Dungeons and Dragons. I want to count me in.
yeah.
When's the
That's
next session?
that's awesome.
Uh,
A
so
similar
yeah.
thing happened to me when this was, I don't know, this was a while ago, but I hadn't played D&D for, I don't know, 5 years or something. And I was at work one day and there was this guy at work and he mentioned that he ran a D&D game and I was like, whoa, dude, like, do you have room for one more? And then I started playing with him and that's how I got back into the swing of things. And yeah,
Excellent, excellent.
yeah.
And it's great to come back as a player as well, isn't it? And then just be a player. Well, mostly I'm
Well,
more of a player than a DM actually, but or you prefer
well,
DMing?
usually I prefer being a game master. Um,
Mm.
I get bored very easily in games, so like
Mm.
it takes. I have to be in a really good game as a player to maintain my interest. I've just been in so many games, usually at conventions, that have just kind of been like meh, and I'm just like, oh, I'd much rather be running the game than sitting here not being super having fun. So I tend to have more fun as a game master, um, but I do enjoy playing. When
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the big advantage of being a player is just the time commitment is so much lighter, isn't it? So, I
Yes.
mean, I love
Yeah.
being the games master, and but one, I find it very exhausting. I'm not a guy with huge mental and physical
Mm.
stamina. So
Yeah.
after like 4 or 5 hours of like
Yeah.
fielding questions, like trying to
Mhm.
keep a lid on things when
Uh-huh.
things get raucous.
Uh-huh.
I play when I'm a DM, I play in person, and my players they like a drink as well.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, things getting
Yeah.
building up during the session, until
Yep. I hear that. I think I have 5 games right now that I game master. Essentially every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'm running a game as a game master for 5 different groups. So one of the groups is every week, and the other ones alternate. But my Sunday group, one of my Sunday groups, we literally just ended. I was running a Pathfinder 2 campaign, and we just ended it this last Sunday. So I'm done game mastering there for a while, a little bit at least. And now we're going to start taking turns where each of the, almost every single player is going to be a game master for a little bit, and we're going to do that for a while. And like I'm right now when I just got the alien.
Oh,
I
I
think
got that as well.
yeah, I think this is backwards on the screen because my camera got swatched around. But um, I just got this, so I've been reading this. I have the entire. This is the box starter set, but I've been reading that. Obviously, I have all these books like this too, the big official ones. But I just got those because I like the Alien films, like the whole Alien franchise films. And I saw that Free League was doing a Kickstarter on Alien, and this is like the Evolved edition. So I think they took
Yeah.
their first one and then they did some updates and stuff. I saw that Kickstarter and I was like, I gotta get that. And then I backed it, and then that arrived like a month ago, I want to say. And I started opening it and reading it, and I was like, oh man, I wanna kill some players with this stuff. So probably what's gonna happen is like we're gonna do some like the players will do some one shots, but eventually I'm gonna be like, all right guys, now we're gonna do an alien one shot, like because the starter set comes with like a little introductory like adventure type thing. So we'll
I'm
probably do that.
actually I'm prepping that adventure right now,
Are
and
you?
by a
Oh,
bizarre
oh, cool,
yes,
cool.
I'll send you my running notes when I'm done. But by a bizarre coincidence, I was chatting to the two designers
Oh, really?
on a podcast the other day.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
they have a podcast called Effect,
Uh
and
huh.
they invited me on to talk about my book,
Oh,
and we
nice.
started
Oh, that's
talking about
cool.
Alien as well because
Oh, that is super cool.
it
Yeah,
was just a coincidence.
yeah, it's cool. It's got like some different game mechanics in there that I hadn't read or used before in other games I played. So I was like, oh, this is cool. Got some different game mechanics and stuff. So, yeah.
Which ones in particular are you thinking of? The the supply mechanic, maybe that's quite
I do
fun.
like the supply mechanic where like if you shoot your gun at something,
Yeah,
depending on how many, I think how many like cartridges or magazines you have or whatever, you roll some dice, and then if the face hugger or whatever or the one comes up, then you lose one of them or something like that. So
yeah.
that sounded interesting to me because it's like instead of just tracking how many times you shot your gun or how many like bursts you
Which
sent
no one
out,
does. Yeah,
there's a chance that like you might not use up any of your supply, or there's a chance that when you fire at some xenomorphs that like you're going to use up half of your capacity or something, which makes sense because like if there's a stress mechanic in the game, right? So if you're like freaking out and under stress, you know what I mean, like, which makes sense in the whole Alien franchise idea. If you're freaking out under stress, I can totally see you just like you meant to fire one burst but it turned into a whole bunch of them and then half of your ammo is gone. So I can totally see that, so I thought that was like
yeah. I
that
mean,
makes sense to me. I kind of like that. So
interesting. I didn't see it making sense, although I love your explanation. I just
yeah,
thought it was a cool mechanic that
yeah,
makes things a bit more on edge
yeah.
and a bit less reliable.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah, you're not sure how long it's going to last you. It could be a long time or a little time.
yeah,
That's true. And that
yeah.
plays into that stress and that fear, type of thing. So that it
Mm.
fits though in that
It's on brand. It's on brand for Alien.
exactly
That's for
that
sure.
atmosphere you're trying to create, the feel of the game. It totally fits with that. Yeah. So I kind of like that. Yeah.
I've been watching all the Alien films to kind of prepare for running it,
Oh yeah.
and uh, oh my God, Alien 4 Resurrection is a really bad. Or Alien, is it, well, it's the fourth one. Alien Resurrection is a
Is
terrible
that the one
film.
where they cloned Ripley and then
Yeah, yeah,
she
yeah,
had the chest burster inside her when she got cloned?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just watched the first one, right?
Yeah.
And then I was gonna watch the second one, but the only way I can get it is by buying it on Amazon, and it was $20, and I was like, I think I'll just go
I,
watch something on HBO instead of paying $20 for one movie. You know?
so what I did is I subscribed to Disney Plus for like I'll just subscribe for 1 month and I'm
Yeah.
watching them all done, and it was like
That's like
six or $7 for
really
1 month.
that's all it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, we're
Okay.
in Spain anyway. Maybe it's yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll take a look at that, but I'm not super excited about giving money to Disney, to be perfectly honest. So I'd rather buy it, I don't know, somewhere else, but whatever. But yeah, I'm excited about that. That'll be fun. Um, Nothing to do with the topic of today's thing, but yeah,
Good digression.
that'll be really cool. And I haven't actually really used starter sets before, and I think this is I have another starter set for another game back there. I forget what it is, but I've never really used starter sets. But for this Alien game, I first opened up the big book and I was like, started to read it, and I'm like, it had a bunch of history and stuff, which is amazing. All of the cool, interesting, and the different political factions essentially in the universe, of the Alien universe, is like really cool. And so I was reading some of that, but then I'm like, and then opened up the starter book, and what I like about it is that it like gives you like the essential rules all super condensed, so you can read them and then pretty much start running the game as quickly as possible, you know what I mean, without having to slog through like a 200, I think it's about 250 pages or so rule book or something. So I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah.
Yeah, I had the exact same thoughts. I was really impressed with the starter set. I wasn't sure what to go for. I wrote to Free League and I said, "Hey, I'm really interested in covering your stuff on my blog.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure you could do the same, League." I asked them maybe if they wanted to send me the starter set just in case they want to send me for free, and
Yeah.
they sent me the whole thing, like starter set, evolved edition, and everything, all the basically all the stuff, all the current stuff. But
Yeah.
the starter set was just brilliant because
Yeah.
it does exactly what you want it to do, without having to slog through that huge book, which does look good, but
Oh, it's
that's
good. It's enjoyable
it,
reading, but
yeah,
it's going to take a while if you want to play the game.
exactly. It like
Yeah.
backdates getting into the game by 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
2 months, or
Yeah.
however
I don't,
long.
the cool thing though is I don't have a time limit, like, because I have no commitment to run anything for that one group for whoever knows how long, because my players are just gonna rotate as game masters and run their own things and stuff, and
Okay,
all
yeah.
of them except for one have, I think, been game masters before, so yeah, so it's cool. It'll be great to take a break from prepping, basically.
Yeah.
So that'll be the nice thing, because I'm a little busy right now, so like not having to prep a game is really nice. And it's crazy how much time it takes to prep a Pathfinder 2 game. Like what I found, also completely unrelated to this topic, but what I have found is that, so I've played lots of different games that have been like super rules light and then really rules heavy. And what I've increasingly found is that the more rules heavy a game is, the longer it takes me to prep the game, to actually run the game for people. Whereas if you give me a rules light game, like Shadow Dark is the one I'm playing right now that's rules light. Give me a game like that, and I can prep a dungeon for that really quickly. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. But like,
Why is that, do you think?
oh gosh, well, example from Pathfinder 2, because of the high level of crunch, and what they've done is, the player's power just progresses in a linear way. It might even get slightly curved exponential, but the player's power just keeps progressing and progressing, and like the numbers all keep progressing. D&D 5th edition has this bounded accuracy concept where numbers don't just increase perpetually, you know what I mean? They like taper off and stuff, like our enemies, for instance, the highest armor class in D&D 5e is probably around 25 or so. It doesn't get much harder than that, because there's this area that armor class, this range, it stays within, and that's it, right? Pathfinder 2 is not like that. Like, armor class just goes up and up and up and up and up. We're at level 10 right now, and the armor class on an enemy is like 34 or something. At least the one that I was running for them the last game session, and it was a really tough monster. And so, since all the numbers just increase exponentially, in Pathfinder 2, if I want to run an adventure with Medusas in it, right, and my party is level 10, well, the Medusa's only like a level 5 creature or something. They will, even if I pit like 1,000 Medusas against them, they're gonna trounce them. So what I have to do is I have to take that creature that I want to actually put in the game, and I have to scale up all of the numbers. Now, there are online tools that I use for that make it a lot easier, but I still have to do it, right? I have to calculate what level the monster needs to be according to their group level, and then I have to like redo the stat block, and I got to print it out, and I got to have it ready, and when you have to do that for multiple monsters, you know what I mean, and that's just one example, of the type of thing that requires more prep, you know what I mean. So, and that just gets like, obviously it would be easier if I just picked monsters out of the books that are in the right level range for them, but like that's not always what you want to do. Like, they were specifically going into Droam and Eberron, and I had this very specific like thing that I wanted to do, you know what I mean? And like, so I just had to scale a bunch of monsters, and it just got to be a big pain in the butt, So that's an example.
Yeah, no, it's a good example. I think 5e maybe doesn't get enough credit for including that bounded accuracy, and having
Yeah.
having the fact that goblins can still hit you when you're level 10. Like,
Yeah, and the thing that with 5e too is that I found is that I can take any. So like, I've run the gamut of like loving 5th edition. There was a while where I was like, I didn't like 5th edition, probably because of the company more so than the game itself, right?
Right.
And now I'm back to where like D&D 5th edition is a solid game. Like, it's really good. I like it. And the great thing about, like, I could take a goblin. Now, a goblin probably has a +2 to hit, maybe a +3. And I can take a goblin or several goblins and pit them against higher level adventurers. And the only change I need to make is their to hit number. Instead of having a +2 to hit, if I make it a +5 or 6 to hit, the goblin is suddenly a viable creature with one change. I don't care about the hit points. They're gonna hit it once it dies. I don't care about that, But as long as as long as this pack of goblins can get a few hits in, they become dangerous again. And I change one number, their to hit number, and that's it. Yeah. And they're suddenly viable again. In like Pathfinder 2, I can't do that. I got to change like a bunch of different numbers. You know what I mean? So anyway, 5th edition's, it makes that bounded accuracy and stuff and a lot of other things make it a lot easier to run as a game master. And the stat blocks aren't as long. Like, can you imagine Imagine if you had a stat block for a monster that's an entire page long.
Mm.
That's so much information to digest and to use during a game. It's bonkers, right? Now, fifth edition is better than that, but there's still some long ones in fifth edition. But a lot of them are a little bit simpler.
Yeah.
But like if I take a
I
game
have,
like
I have a
Shadow,
bad habit of writing some quite meaty stat blocks as
yeah,
well,
oh
but
yeah,
they're normally for the boss, to be fair.
yeah.
So.
But like for Shadow Dark, the stat blocks are just these little tiny things. They're not that long.
Mm.
And so as a game master, if I'm prepping, because like one of the things for prepping a game is that I want to be familiar with the stat blocks, right? I want to know what my monsters can do, and I want to be prepared to run them in combats, right? So I have to read the stat blocks. I have to prepare what they're going to do. I have to think through this stuff. It's part of my prep. So in Shadow Dark, stat blocks that long. I'm like, oh, okay. I understand it. I glance at it. I understand the monster. And then I can think about, oh, okay, based upon this, this, and this, I would use it this way in combat. Okay, I'm done. It makes it so simple. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like if you're talking about like the rules light versus the rules heavy and preparation time, I think it's one of the things is you get all of these small little time savings, that just add up, so I think that's part of it. So. Tell us about your book, though. Let's go back to tell us about your book. What is your book? What does it contain? Let's start there.
Okay. Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me on to talk about this. But yeah, it's the Creative Game Master's Guide to Extraordinary Locations. The big meat of the book is 30 locations that you can drop into your game. I kind of divided them by terrain. So you've got like 5 or 6 city locations, like serpentine baths where you can go and get a massage from an anaconda, or drink like some black mamba blood, and
Yeah.
I don't know. There's these very themed locations,
Okay. Cool.
and of course there's a cult operating out of the baths, and I just suggest a few different ways that you could use this as an adventure location. So it's not presented as an adventure. It's presented as a location. Maybe I should actually.
Yeah. A cult in a bar. Look, I would be like, that's perfect. So they essentially like they they
Yeah,
kidnap.
baths.
What's that?
Baths.
Oh, baths. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that could be just as creepy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, the idea is that I presented 30 of these locations. I try to make them as original and different as possible, and each one is an adventure waiting to happen. But how you bring it to the table is very much up to you, because it's not necessarily like a dungeon with a combat threat and you just go in and deal with it. It's more like there might be a faction there. They have their agenda. Maybe you need to go and negotiate with them. Maybe you need to go and steal something with them. Maybe you need to go and rescue a hostage from the baths.
Yeah.
Or maybe something else is going on at the baths and you need to go and socialize and, get a rub down.
Get a
At the
rub
same
down.
So yeah, I mean, I was thinking I like writing adventures. I think you do too, and
Yeah.
I think that's something we're going to discuss, obviously, over the next hour or two. But one thing I've noticed on my adventures on the DM's Guild, they're almost like the lowest selling products I publish.
They're what? Say
Um,
that again.
so I've published lots of products on the DM's
Yeah.
Guild, but adventures are amongst the lowest selling.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
I think it's a product that needs the most buy-in from a GM, and it also GMs just like to run their own adventures, I
A
think,
lot of them do. Yeah.
and do things their own way. So what I thought would be maybe more likely that people will actually use the material I write is if I write a tool for them, and they can decide how to use it.
Right. Yeah. How to craft their own world and adventures around the locations and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely see that. Yeah.
So that's the approach. So I call them adventure locations because it's not just a shop where you go and buy something. or like a tavern. I mean, there are a couple of taverns in there, but they're not just a basic tavern with like a hearth and you just pass by. Each location is there to support an adventure
Right.
and could potentially support two or three different adventures
Yeah. So
depending
it sounds
what
like
you're
there are
doing.
like adventure hooks kind of embedded in the locations so that game masters can, like, for instance, if you have a cult operating out of the baths, immediately my mind is like, oh, okay, cool. What is the cult doing? Why are they in the baths? You know, are you like relaxing in a bath and then the steam has some sort of like drug in it, and the next thing you know, you wake up somewhere else, like being sacrificed or something. You know, like there's yeah. So you can
Yes, that's basically exactly it. I mean, I didn't think about the steam. That was a good one.
okay.
So there's this is one of the few locations actually linked to another location in the book. There's this, you get those lazy rivers
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Amusement
a
parks and
theme
stuff.
park.
Yeah. Uh huh.
So this lazy river, it disappears underground.
Oh,
You get
nice.
dropped, you get dropped off into this cistern, and then here is like a temple, a bit like Conan-esque,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
Temple
Yep.
of the Snakes,
Nice.
where the cult really get up to some nasty stuff. Um, so yeah, so you can
Yeah.
use the baths. You don't have to incorporate that. The baths you could
Yeah.
use as they have an office where they keep a list of cult members. So that might be a mission for a less
Yeah.
powerful group. If you have a more powerful group who can actually maybe handle a bit more combat, you could send them into this dungeon.
Right. Right. Right.
Uh,
That's cool. I love the Conan reference because that is like the original Conan movie was amazing, right? And like the second one they did, I think Conan the Destroyer or Conqueror. There was a second one, right? That Arnold did, and
yes.
that was really cool too. But one of the things I love about those movies is the soundtracks. The Conan soundtracks are so good. Like I have like on my computer, I use YouTube Music to listen to stuff while I work and stuff. And like a lot of times when I'm getting ready to prep for a game, I'll put on the Conan soundtrack, and it is just like dun 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 dun. It's just like this very like epic thematic music, that is really cool.
I'm going to go back and listen to it. I mean, a lot of it, the visuals are kind of embedded in my memory. It used to be on
Yeah.
TV a lot as a kid, but
Yeah.
I haven't gone back and watched it for a long
Yeah,
time.
the soundtrack is crazy. It's amazing. I would play it during my games, except that, like, well, I could actually do that during some of my in-person game. We put it on YouTube, so I would get in trouble if I had that going on there. Otherwise, I'd play it because it's just like it's some of the best music to have going. It's just
In
all
the background
copyrighted.
this year.
Yeah, it's really
Oh,
cool.
good combat music, action music.
Yeah, World of Warcraft has good soundtracks too for like fantasy stuff. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So, okay, so we got a book, and then I have a link. I have linked down in the description for folks who want to check that out. And you can also find Duncan at hipstersanddragons.com as well. I got a link in the description too. It looks like my chat bot is not working, so the links are not going through in in YouTube. So sometimes it decides not to wake up. It just takes
I
vacation.
think I saw them
Whatever.
I saw the links in the description anyway.
Yeah, they're for sure in the description. So, all right, let's talk about how to create good, great, or whatever D&D adventures. So, like, when you're thinking about writing a D&D adventure, either for your group or maybe it's something you're thinking about publishing or something, what's the thing that you think is super important for creating a good D&D adventure?
Yeah, I like to run epic adventures.
Mm-hmm.
It don't have to start off epic, but I like to think there's going to be some just like huge moments. And yeah, I don't really like these. I sometimes get a bit bored with these kind of like small. You go around town doing a couple of little quests, rescuing some goats. I'm
Killing
not
rats?
really into it.
Yeah.
I like things with bigger stakes.
Sure. Right.
And
It's like
yeah, I
why do
like
you why
to.
do you need adventurers to rescue goats? Don't the shepherds take care of that? That's their job, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So even if you're first level, yeah, maybe you're just dealing with some kobolds, but those kobolds are signs of a dragon coming down the road.
Yeah.
They're they're a symbol of this Dragon Awakening. So it, essentially, you're starting off with a combat threat that the party can deal with, but you're already signposting that something bigger is happening on the horizon. So
Okay.
definitely, I like to think big when you're working an adventure. I think you got to start with like something, an explosive scene. It's quite a good way to do it. I think when I ran Dragon Heist, I had um, I had some like bad guys. I think it was Zentarium come in and like throw some flashbangs in it. Like if the first thing you have to do is roll a saving throw,
Yeah.
you're off to a good start. I think.
Right. Just open with action, kind of the idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It really gets your adrenaline going and like I don't know, sets the tone.
Yeah.
I don't mind slow burner occasionally, but I think you're on pretty safe ground if you start with a strong piece of action.
Yeah.
I
And
think
a lot of times that's combat if you're running a D&D game.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess chases another thing, although they're hard to run in Dungeons and Dragons. But
Well, if you try to use
um,
if you use the official chase rules, yeah, they suck. Because it's like, oh, okay, here are some rules, some fairly, well, they're not super complex, but they're complex enough. And we never use them, but we're going to do a chase. So let's pause the game for 20 minutes to see if we can understand the rules and then use the rules. So yeah, that's anticlimactic, you know. So
you really need a map because it's all about
that's true.
measuring distances,
Yeah,
and all
well,
of the chase complications are about losing 5 feet here or 10 feet there.
oh, if you use the official rules. Oh, I
Yeah,
haven't looked at the official rules in
yeah,
years. I think I looked at them and I was like, I'm never using this in a game. Like, this is silly. I'm just gonna do a skill challenge. And then
yeah,
that, as soon as I think skill challenge, I'm like, oh, that's easy. I set a DC and we begin. And then based upon the results, we narrate, we use our imaginations to narrate what happens. You know, like, oh, you failed, this is what happens. Oh, you succeeded, this is what happens. You know, and
yeah.
it's just so easy to do, you know, and relies much more on your creativity and imaginations than some official rules that you don't really need, you know.
It's definitely yeah, you got to go theater of the mind for chases,
Oh yeah.
especially because even if you've got a map, the whole point of a chase is they're gonna run off the map in like one round. So,
Yep, they
like,
will.
so yeah, I think you're right. I do skill contests. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
bad guy versus good guy. Well, assuming the heroes are good guys, and then yeah, if one wins, they put up a bit of a gap,
Yeah.
and then yeah, maybe you make it like a kind of best of three or whatever. But definitely,
Yeah. And also I mean, for chases too, like if you follow, okay, they got the chase rules, but then if you're trying to do a chase using the combat rules, whichever party decides to run away first is just going to get obliterated. Because imagine like, so this is your character and this is the bad guy, and you're next to each other. The character is like, okay, it's time to run. All right. Well, if they disengage and run 30 feet, on the bad guy's next turn, he moves 30 feet and attacks you again. You disengage, move, he runs and attacks. You're screwed. The only hope you have is if you don't disengage and just move 60 feet, right? Well, at that point, he gets an opportunity attack on you, which might be a bad idea. He might just kill you with that, maybe. But even if he does it, you get away from him. Okay, great. I'm going to move 30 feet and go to ranged weapons now. It's like whichever, like if you're using the official like normal combat rules for running away, it's over.
yeah.
Like the
No one
party
ever
that
gets
decides
away.
to run away dies. It's just and it is such a grind and a slog. So you absolutely have to once one side decides to run away, you kind of have to like fade to black and go to the next scene, which is the chase scene. You know, whether the party is running away or the bad guys are running away, then you have to fade to the chase scene, which uses different mechanics, you know, to make it more interesting and actually feasible and not a horrible slog. So, but yeah, that can be fun.
Yeah. The end of combats where someone's run away is pretty dull. Yeah, you just wrap it up. Pretty
Yeah.
obvious conclusion.
Yeah. Well, that's so we've all been in those games too where you have a combat that's going on, and in games like D&D or Pathfinder 2, combats tend to take a while, right? And we've all been in those combats where about halfway through the combat, you know who's going to win. It's obvious. Usually the players are going to win. The monsters stand no chance. It's just obvious at that point. You know what I mean? And so it's like, do you just slog it out? You know? Or does the game master step in and say, and narrate, or ask the players to narrate how they finish the bad guys off?
Yeah.
You know? So,
I think this is I actually wrote about this in my blog. I think
yeah.
it's still dramatic for the players. That they for us as a GM, it's dull now
Yeah.
because the tension's gone out of the battle for us. We know how many hit points the monsters have,
Uh,
and, and we're running them, and we kind of wanted it to be. We wanted to get more licks in, right, with
sure.
our monsters. So we're a bit frustrated, but for them, it's still dramatic because they can still get hit, they can still lose hit points, they can still take a crit,
Yeah.
and they still want the glory of like finishing those monsters. So I actually think, yeah, it's pretty dull for us, but we just have to suck that one up
Yeah.
and let them play out the combat, you know.
Yeah, I think it depends on the. I think the game system matters too. So I know for D&D Fifth Edition, once I can definitely see playing it out, you know, because the amount of hit point, the damage they take, and the resources they spend are pretty important in D&D Fifth Edition. For Pathfinder 2, what I've found is the game system is designed so that after every combat, the party pretty much gets all their hit points back, right?
Wow.
All of them. It's just that's the way it's designed. After every combat, you got all your hit points back. And so what I found is that, like, once a combat's clearly over, I could have that monster or group of monsters continue to deal damage and we can slog it out. But I'm not depleting their resources at all. Like, there is no resource depletion or anything. Because once they finish them off, they're going to do combat medicine or they're going to use medicine, you know, and my players know well enough to have enough people trained in that so they can do it. And then everyone gets their hit points back. So at that point, it's like, well, what's the point of the slog? You know,
Yeah.
it's like, because there's no risk. There's zero risk. There's zero challenge. It's just a mop up. A lot of times I still play it out because it feels good to just be beating the crap out of them. But there's some fights where it's like you've already had the fight for 2, maybe 3 hours. And that's no joke for Pathfinder 2.
Yeah.
2 or 3 hours is not abnormal, okay? Especially if it's like an extreme or an extreme combat, okay? And so when a fight's gone on for 2 or 3 hours and it's clear who the winner is, dude, everyone wants it to be over. So
You really, I mean, people sometimes say on my blog because I used to write a lot. Weapons were a bit boring in D&D, and I'd like more crunch. And people would always say you should try Pathfinder, but I'm telling you, everything you're saying now is like making me
no.
think.
I mean, but here's the thing. There's a lot of people that love that level of crunch. Like, there are tons of people that love Pathfinder 2, you know? So, like, it might not be my cup of tea after I've played it now it was almost 3 years we played Pathfinder 2, almost 3 years, you know? So I may have found over the course of those 3 years that it's not my cup of tea, but that doesn't mean there aren't people out there who are going to love it. You know what I mean? And obviously it's the second most popular system, is my understanding, next to D&D, as far as like in the fantasy, you know, area. So clearly there are tons of people who love it and tons of people who are going to like that style of play. I've personally found that it's not for me, you know what I mean? But lots of people will love it. They will, you know, and they'll keep playing it forever. So
I mean, yeah. Going back to your point, really, as a player, I don't mind it. I don't think I'd mind it too much, and I quite like, getting those niche benefits or optimizing characters.
yeah.
But yeah, as a dungeon master, a games master, bit of a nightmare.
Yeah. So when I think going back to the topic of like creating good adventures and stuff, I think one of the things that I always strive to do when I'm running my adventures is balancing the 3 pillars. So we know we have combat, we have exploration, and then we have social interaction. Most people erroneously call social interaction role playing, but the entire game is role playing. So social interaction is the talky stuff, right?
Yes.
And having a balance of that when you design an adventure, I think is really important, because most groups are going to have a variety of different player types and player interests. So you're going to have some players who really like combat, other players who love interacting and talking and doing the whole social thing, and then other people who love exploration. Like my friend Joe loves exploration. He loves it. He loves it. His favorite thing is exploration. I when I'm a player, I could pass an exploration. I don't care about exploration. I love the talkie and I like combat. But exploration, it's boring to me. You know, but people have different interests, right? And so when you design an adventure, you want to design it so that it appeals to a spectrum of player interests. So all my adventures have combat in them one way or another,
Yeah.
because I know I have players that love combat. And then we're going to have exploration. When you're making a dungeon or a location-based adventure, exploration it just goes. It's almost impossible to design an adventure that doesn't have exploration, right? And I think a lot of people confuse exploration with overland travel. That's not exploration, right? That's just overland travel, okay? And you might have one random encounter, and then you arrive at your destination. But that's not exploration. Exploration is when you're going down a corridor, and you're seeing if there's traps, or you're listening at a door and you're opening a door, you're searching a room, or a puzzle. A puzzle is exploration, disarming a trap. These are like the exploration elements, and so, but a lot of the location-based adventures, exploration is pretty easy to get in there, and then the social, I have found that the social interaction is the thing that a game master has to be the most deliberate about, because it's very easy to design an adventure that just has a bunch of combat and exploration, but the social interaction, if you don't deliberately put it in there, it might get totally missed. So like, and the social interaction could be with the enemies, right? Like they don't. When you open the door, one of the worst games I've ever played in at a convention was every time we opened a door, the game master would describe the room, he would describe the enemies, and the enemies immediately just drew their weapons and charged us. There was no opportunity to talk to them, to get information, to maybe like bluff them and get by them or something. And even if ultimately they were going to attack us because we're intruders, that's fair. But let us talk a little bit so we get that part of the game. So that was horrible. And the irony is that was an adventure that he and his company had designed, and they were selling it at a table like a little bit away. And so I'm just like, you were doing the worst job marketing your game, man. Oh my gosh, this is horrible. But so I think we have to be deliberate about either making it so that enemies have a reason to talk to intruders first, or geez, combat is deadly and lethal, so most intelligent creatures are going to prefer talking before they start swinging weapons, because you could die. It's dangerous, So being deliberate about why enemies might talk first and what that might look like. What are their motivations? What do they want? You know what I mean? But also putting neutral characters in the dungeon location. Like that group of hobgoblins might have a bunch of kobolds as slaves, right? And the kobolds, they cook and they clean, and they're just like mistreated and stuff. And so the players are going into the goblin or the hobgoblin stronghold, and then they go into the kitchen and they find a bunch of kobolds, and the kobolds are cowering and they're terrified. They start to talk to the kobolds. Oh, the kobolds are helpful. They have information, and oh, they can tell us things. And all of a sudden you have this really cool social interaction in the middle of what was a dungeon delve, a raid, or a heist, or whatever it happened to be, But if you're deliberate about that, you can make it so your adventures have all three of those pillars, and I think that is going to make them much more interesting and dynamic and appeal to a wider variety of players.
100%. I think that's a core of my adventure design principle as well. You've got to have those three pillars. For me, it's easier for me actually to put in the social interaction. I find that's the part that comes most naturally to me. So my adventures tend to have a lot of social interaction baked in. So I mean, one of the adventures I wrote on the DM's Guild is Dragon Ball, and it's a gladiatorial combat where you sign up to like win 500,000 gold pieces by fighting in a team against other teams. But this, I think, when I ran it, we spent more time socializing than in combat, because around this tournament, I built all these parties and fairs and events, and different locations like casino, fun fair. And the idea was it was to give the players a chance to compete with the guys they're going to fight to the death with.
Mm-hmm.
First, they're going to get antagonistic with them
Right.
in like in a low stakes setting, you know, to
Sure.
like build the
Mm-hmm.
tension, like to build the vibes, the bad vibes.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And I also had a bunch of intrigue going on. You know, all of the people running this Dragon Ball tournament, they all had their own agendas and their little side missions you could go on. Maybe you're only entering the tournament in order to get more info on this kind of
Mm-hmm.
shady corporation, in which case you had some spy missions to do in the background.
Yeah.
So I yeah, definitely. The thing I found harder that I don't do naturally is build in stuff for the exploration pillar.
Mm-hmm.
But designing, yeah, writing this book, I tried to correct that, I think. And I think for me, exploration is about interactive features, you know. It's like rewarding players for when they go to a statue and they start poking around with it. They're like, is there any writing on the statue?
Right.
You know, can I fill around with it? Can I inspect it? Or, you know, maybe can I just pray to the statue? The
Mm-hmm.
statue is a god. Gods are real and their powers manifest visibly in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. So it makes sense that if you pray to a god of travel, you might get a bonus on your survival check the next day, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Um, Even that is, I consider that part of the exploration pillar. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's about providing um, these little nuggets. And actually, that was quite fun. Uh, in the book, each location is like it's like a full page.
Mm-hmm.
So that often provided me space. I'd often be like, "Oh, how can I fill?" That's a canyon. I'd be like, "How can I
Mm-hmm.
fill a little space in the map?" So I
Right.
was like, "Oh, I'll put another thing there that they can
Mm-hmm.
just maybe it's
Yeah.
just a hermitage where they can go and speak to a hermit and get like a few tips on the environment or buy a healing potion,
Right.
get some, yeah, or find out what toxin might work against a known threat. In this particular canyon, it's known that there's a giant scorpion. So there's a hermit that can help them find an antitoxin from natural plants. So that's a mix of a social exploration, social encounter and
Yeah.
exploration.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. I think when I'm designing an adventure, every area of the adventure, as far as making sure that I get like the three pillars, right? Not every area is going to have combat, obviously, right? I would say that probably maybe 2/3 of an adventure have creatures there that might turn into a combat. It depends on how things go, right? But there are also some empty areas too, right? But like I consider for every area, I consider, am I going to have creatures here, right? And then I always want to have a something the players can discover if they look around. There's always something in there. They could be a bedroom, and then in one of the dresser drawers there's this thing or the other, right? Or it might just be like there's a secret niche or a secret thing, or there's a chest with like treasure in it, a false bottom or a trap or something. But like for every area, I want there to be at least one thing that if the players pause to poke around, they might discover, right? Because I think and sometimes I've had groups that will be all about just getting through the location as quickly as possible. They like open the door, look around, no monsters. Okay, next room. Look around, no monsters. Next room. And I had a group like this
Almost a
recently.
bit It's almost a bit sad when that happens when you build this beautiful like
Yeah,
location full of little like Easter eggs and no
right.
one like searches for anything.
And I had a group like this doing this recently, and this was a couple months ago at this point. But they were kind of doing this, and I literally stopped them. I was like, okay, time out, guys. I want you guys to know, okay, every single one of these rooms you're going through, there might be stuff in here that you can find and discover, and some of it might be very useful to you. Okay, I just want you to be aware of that because I see you guys rushing through, right? Now, I'm not going to tell you to pause and look around. You have your agency, you do what you want to do. I just want you to be aware that you might be missing a bunch of cool stuff. That's all I want to say. Okay. And then I left it to them, and, I think they slowed down for that game session at least. I don't remember the ones after that, but that's what I did. It's just like, I just want to let them know, hey, meta time, right?
Yeah,
There's
no,
stuff you might be
I
missing.
I think you did well. I mean, I remember when I used to play in the late 80s and early 90s, there was, you killed the monsters, then you looted them,
Right.
and then you searched for secret passages,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and then you searched the room, So there was a routine, and
Yeah.
searching for secret passages, and I think by extension, any hidden treasure was part of the kind of old school
Yeah.
approach. Whereas, yeah, maybe now. And now the D&D is a little bit more, I don't know, story based and RP based. Maybe that trend and that kind of habit has left people a little bit. There's normally at least one person who wants in my group who wants to have a mosey round and see what they can turn up.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I know. So one of the things too that I think is really important for designing a great adventure is and running it is adapting it for your players. And this is especially true if you're using a pre-made adventure, right? So right now I'm running Ghost of Salt Marsh for a group, and one of the adventures in there is called Danger at Dunwater. And when that adventure was originally designed, it was like heralded as this awesome masterpiece because it doesn't feature very much combat at all. In fact, it's not supposed to be a combat adventure. It's really just like it's mostly social interaction and exploration, and there's almost no combat, or at least if you get into a lot of combat, you're just going to fail the adventure essentially. But it's designed. Are you familiar with it at all?
Yes, I played it as a player.
Yeah.
But my friend, he kind of matched it up with some different things. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is this the one where you end up in this kind of house where
Nope.
you?
No, that's the first one. That's the Sinister Secret or something. But there's one after that involves lizard folk. It's the lizard folk adventure.
Yes, and you go into the swamp.
Yeah.
There's a big. We basically nearly died in that dungeon, and I think we just had to flee for our lives.
Well, I mean, it's not designed to fight everything. It's not that sort of dungeon. So if you go in and start fighting stuff, the odds are overwhelming, especially depending on where you enter it, because there are 3 entrances. But so like what I noticed is we just entered the lizard folk lair in our last game session, and one of the things that I'm very on point to do as a game master is just observing my players and seeing like, are they engaging, are they interacting, do they look like they're enjoying themselves, or are they a little disengaged, And what I noticed, especially for one of my players, is that he seemed to be kind of disengaged, and I would ask him every so often if he wanted to do something. He mostly just kind of went along with the group and wasn't too interested. And so after that game session, I was like, because we've only been playing for a few months now, so I don't know the players all super, super well. But after the game session, I was like, okay, this player is usually really gung-ho, and he's really engaged in stuff. So what's going on here? And then I was thinking about it. I'm like, this player likes combat. And we had literally an entire game session with no combat. And so there was nothing in this that really appealed to him, And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. And so then I was like, that means, and Danger at Dunwater is like 50 plus areas. It's a huge, sprawling adventure. And I'm like, okay, if I run this adventure as is, I'm going to have at least one player who is like not going to enjoy it super much because he wants to smash stuff. And so I'm like, okay, I need to make some changes. What are different things I can do in this adventure to introduce combat and have combat happen, And so then I went back and I looked at, there was some different factions in the lizard folk layer. Then I'm like, okay, I could use that. And essentially what I did is I went back and recognizing what I believe to be one of my players' preferences. He likes combat. I was like, I got to change this adventure a little bit to introduce combat. Otherwise he's not going to like it a whole lot. So my point is that adapting a pre-made adventure for your players and what you know about them is super important to run a great game. And a lot of times that's going to happen, especially if it's a pre-made game, it's going to happen as you're running it. If you notice these things, or if one of your players loves combat, you could obviously change stuff beforehand. So
I agree. I'd add another point to that, which is if you need to adapt the adventure hooks for your players.
Yes.
Because a lot of these, I mean, even Curse of Strahd, right, which is like legendary adventure, some say the best in the adventure ever written. I mean, I think the adventure hook is, oh, you're wandering around and it gets foggy out,
You're
and
trapped.
suddenly you're in Barovia.
You're trapped. I have found that the whole adventure hook of you're trapped in a foreign place and you have to escape is one of the worst adventure hooks that exists. It's horrible. And yeah.
You didn't feel like you took on the adventure, right? Well, you didn't. So you don't have that agency and that feeling that I'm doing something heroic here.
Right. Well, I mean, and the only motivation the players really have is to get back home, to escape and get back home. And so if that's their real motivation, then you have to lean into that. So it's like, okay, so I literally wrote an adventure that they are trapped in the Fey Plane and they have to escape, right? And so everything I have to think about is, okay, I have 12 adventures for them to play through. If their only real motivation is to get out of the Fey Plane and escape, how do I motivate them to play through all 12 of these adventures? And so I'm just like, I guess I'm going to make some MacGuffins. They have to gather MacGuffins in order to defeat a final enemy. And the final enemy is this, essentially a demigod who is making it so that they can't leave, So they have to gather the MacGuffins and then confront her and defeat her. And then if they defeat her, they can leave, And it's like, okay, it's not. I don't know. If I had to write it all over again, I would have done it differently. Let's just say that, okay? Because it's a little bit contrived, and everybody realizes that we're getting MacGuffins. You know what I mean? So I would have done it differently in retrospect, but the ship has already sailed. So what are you gonna do? It's 12 adventures. You're not rewriting those at this point.
You learn though,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, people play the adventure because they want to play it. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's a nice addition if on top of that they can really feel their character will be up for this.
Yeah. And the thing about you mentioned Curse of Strahd. I played through Curse of Strahd, right? And the interesting thing is when you get in there and you get out of Death House and you end up in you're in there's a small village right below Strahd's castle. I forget the name of that village.
Barovia, isn't it?
Is it just called Barovia? I thought Barovia is the entire world. But there's this town you end up in, and Castle Ravenloft is right there. And
yeah, and you're like, why don't we just go?
Why, literally, I think when we were first playing this, my players were like, well, Castle Ravenloft is right there. Why don't we just go and confront Strahd right now? And my players were all like, because we're too low level. They literally had to metagame it to convince themselves not to just go to Castle Ravenloft. They're like, we're just gonna die, you guys. But the interesting thing is that there's parts of that adventure are literally encouraging the game master, and there are parts that tell the game master that Strahd isn't a villain that's only confronted at the end of the adventure. Strahd is a villain that interacts with the players every so often. You know what I mean? And so, for instance, this might have been in the adventure, or it might have been something I added, but Strahd invites the party to a dinner party. He invites all the characters to go to his castle for a dinner party. I think that's in the adventure module. I'm not sure, though. But anyway, when my players received this invitation, they were like, we're not going there, man. He's just going to murder us. So I think Strahd somehow like twisted their arms and made it like so they kind of had to go or something. So they ended up going. They ended up
Yeah.
going, but they were terrified. They didn't want to talk to him at all because they're like he's just gonna murder us, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah, I played it as a player, and our DM, they gave us a hook tied in with another player's
Yeah.
backstory, and so we had more motivation to go
Hmm.
there. We actively went to Barovia,
Oh, okay, cool.
and that worked better. And then you get this brilliant readout. The Madam Eva tarot reading is really good.
Oh yeah.
You kind of discover where some magic items might
Uh
be
huh.
in order to explore different areas of the
Yeah.
map. Items that might help you on your quest. So I think
Yeah.
that's a good setup. And then,
I
um,
stacked the deck on that. Like when they were telling you to like there's this part of the beginning of the book where they're like, "Oh, you can your players can play through Curse of Strahd multiple times because the locations of certain things might be different every time." I'm just like, that's not going to
that's
work.
not how it works.
That's not
No,
how it works, okay?
you could run it
But
several times for different groups,
yeah.
and it will be
Yeah.
better for you.
And
But
also, I was like, they wanted you to randomly determine where all of the like artifacts were, and then other certain things or something. And I was thinking through that through. I'm just like, that's dumb. I'm gonna use my brain as a game master, and I'm gonna place these things where I think that they will be most dramatic or most relevant or the best place to put them, basically, you know. And so I hand placed all the items where I thought they should go, you know, to fit like the game that I was running or whatever. So yeah, but that's
were you
part of.
able to do it? Were you able to do the reading as if it was random?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we did the
Okay.
we did the tarot reading and everything, absolutely. But I stacked the deck, you know.
Yeah, perfect. That's exactly we did the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just stack the deck, and then everything works out just fine.
Yeah.
Um,
But our DM had. I remember my Strahd turned up at one point. We were just messing around, I think, finding some wolves, and he turned up
yeah,
and he like hypnotized my character, and then like
yeah,
went as if it was going to bite me, and then said, "Come back when you're more powerful" or something. So it was really
yeah.
like,
Uh huh. Yeah,
just the
and
way.
I did the similar thing where Strahd showed up a few
Yeah,
times to basically toy with
yeah,
them and show how
yeah,
powerful he was, you know.
yeah.
And then the one thing though that if anybody wants to run Curse of Strahd is that Strahd is way too weak. If the party has all three, I think there are three artifacts. If they get all three of these artifacts, Strahd will die in like one round or something. It's crazy.
Mm.
I turned Strahd into like I don't know what his challenge rating would have been, but I buffed him so much. I gave him really strong allies. I had waves of powerful minions. Like you know that fallen angel in that one town, and how that fallen angel was the abbot, I think, or I think he was the
Okay,
abbot. He's
sure
been
if we went there.
he was basically a fallen angel, and he was creating a flesh golem as a bride for Strahd because he was like bonkers, right? Well, my players were terrified to fight the abbot and the flesh golem. They were terrified, so they convinced the abbot that because the abbot wanted them to take the flesh golem to Strahd as a gift. Well, they convinced the abbot to take the flesh golem to Strahd as a bride, right? And my players were all like, "That's great. We defeated him. He's gone, and we overcome the challenge." And I'm over here, and I'm just like, "Well, Strahd is too weak. I got to buff him up." Oh, okay. The abbot and the flesh golem like now work for Strahd essentially. So in the final confrontation, they had to fight the abbot with the flesh golem, you know, and stuff. So and then
So
I also
you turned their plan against them, basically.
oh yeah, well yeah, that's I mean, but that's what the game master does. Like the game
Yeah, well,
master's job is
they
to
shouldn't have been
well
trying to get someone else to do their dirty work anyway.
yeah, well, I mean, but you have to give them a bit of a reward for that, right? So
Yeah.
they overcame the current challenge, right? And they were rewarded for it, and everything was fine, you know. But I feel like a game master has like a couple different really important jobs in the game. The first job is to create challenges, right, for the players to overcome. But the second job is to create complications, right? Which are they're challenges, but they're complications, and the complications come from taking a player's decision and then twisting it, so that not right now, but sometime later they discover, oh no, this horrible thing is happening because we made this decision back over here, You know what I mean? And then they'll be like, well, we should have just fought the abbot. Now we have to fight him again. Why did we send him to Strahd? We knew Strahd was super powerful, and like, and so like I feel like that's something. Like, for all of my games, I do this. I have this like I keep notes about questionable decisions my players make. Like in my so Ghost of Salt Marsh, right? You know how in Salt Marsh there's literally a vampire, a full blown vampire, locked up underneath one of the buildings. Okay, my I gave a plot hook. Okay, at the very first game session, I gave a plot hook. They were getting rumors in town, and one of the rumors was talking about that building and some weird people going missing around that area of Salt Marsh. And my players were like, "Well, let's go over there and check it out." And I'm just like, I'm thinking, there's a vampire under there, like a CR13 vampire or whatever. They go over there, and they end up getting into a fight with this vampire. It started as a social thing, right? Where the vampire, essentially the way it works is that the vampire needs somebody pure of heart to literally carry him out of the basement, and that will break the ward that this priest like set on the vampire that keeps him in that basement. And there's a paladin in the group. There's a paladin. And so the vampire was trying to convince the paladin to carry him out, to set him free, okay? And he wouldn't do it. And so they got into a fight. And the vampire, vampires grapple and they're super strong and they were beating, and he keeps regenerating. It's like 20 hit points a round or something. So my players are like pounding on him and fighting and stuff, and they couldn't beat him. And the vampire was like slowly, this is the interesting thing. I have 6 players, level 1, and a CR 13, I think is what a vampire is. It might be 9. It might be a CR 9. It wasn't killing them outright. Like, my players were putting up a good fight, which was really interesting. That's really interesting. But they were putting up a good fight, but ultimately they were like, we got to get out of here. And so they all decided to just flee, except that the paladin, the vampire had like a death grip on the paladin, and the paladin could not get out of there. So everybody left except for the paladin. They left the paladin behind. They just ran away. Okay, it's our first game session. So what ended up happening is the paladin finally decided to carry the vampire out. Okay, and he got some promises, like, you're not going to hurt us, you're not going to attack us, you're going to be nice to us. And the vampire's like, absolutely, not a problem, And so now they've set the vampire free. Okay, so now there is a vampire loose in Salt Marsh. And so that's an example of one of those little notes that goes over here where it's like, okay, reminder, develop future complications, And so this was like 2-3 months ago when we first started playing the game. And now we're on adventure, I don't know what, or episode, whatever, what. And now people are starting to disappear on the docks, and they went to explore it. And wouldn't you know it, they found 2 vampires spawn that were like murdering people, and they had to fight them. Okay. And so
have they put 2 and 2 together yet?
Oh, for sure. They know that it's, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure they know it's their fault.
It sounds like you left it enough time that there might be some doubt,
I think they know. Yeah. And so now I think it's like, oh, we have a vampire on the loose that we have to deal with someday. But they have all these other problems too. So it's like you have to choose which problem you're going to do, So
yeah, I mean that's a related point to that is that good adventures are difficult adventures.
Mm-hmm.
The harder it is, almost the more you enjoy it as a player, right? I mean, if you didn't nearly die,
right,
you don't get that epic payoff of having completed the quest.
Yeah.
So I do think if you're looking for a tip, make if in doubt, make your adventures a bit harder than you thought. Not necessarily just with combat, but anything you can do. Anything you can do to put a twist, put a complication in there, to just, or at least maybe there's like a victory state that could be compromised, So maybe you rescue the princess, but there's another prisoner that you can't get out. So you can put in like different layers of success, build that into your adventure. So you might have a core quest, but maybe you rescue the princess, but you don't have time to rescue the treasure because it's you had to choose one or the other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I like those dilemmas
Mm-hmm.
as well. In adventures, they're always good, right? When you have to.
Yeah, yeah. I've on a similar note, I found that the very best combats in my games have been the ones where the players are having a really hard time, and there's a moment where they're like, "We can't win, we can't win." But then they buckle down, and then the favor shifts toward them, and they're like, "Wait, we're starting to do better." You know what I mean? But then it shifts again, where the enemy's doing better. And when there's this constant shift of like, we might win, we're going to lose. We might win, we're going to lose. When there are these ups and downs and you have a really hard fight where you're not sure if you're going to win or not, but then in the end, you finally win, those are the best combats. And that's where you can see all the players, they're like, yeah, when they go down, they're all relieved, they're all happy. And you can just tell those are the best fights, you know? But when you have like the easy trout, well, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the definition of suspense, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
not knowing what the result is going to be.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
suspense equals drama, but it's hard to engineer, isn't it?
Well,
Because
yes, if you are a game master who always like creates the thing first and then during the game you don't deviate from it, yeah, it's hard to engineer that. But
Yeah.
if you're a game master who's okay with curating the game on the fly, then you can say, look it, you know,
Yeah.
they're fighting against this boss who's supposed to be really challenging, but in the first round, I can see that it's not that hard. Okay, I'm going to have some minions arrive. And
Yeah.
by the way, the boss only attacked them like 2 times in that first round, but now he understands the kid's gloves have to come off, and now he has 4 attacks on his round, or he does more damage, you know.
Yeah.
So you can if you change things on the fly, adjusting it for like the type of challenge that you want, you know, then you can definitely get close to having that, you know what I mean. But you can't do that every time, because if every single battle
Yeah.
is like that, it loses its spice, you know. So you want that variety of like, some battles are easy and they just beat the crap out of them. Some are like in the middle. Probably the majority of them are in the middle, you know. Some are easy, most are in the middle, and then every so often there's one that's really hard and they're just like, wow, holy crap, you know.
Yeah, I think it's okay. Like probably average battle, you want there to be some moments where they're like, "Oh God, this is a bit nasty." You know, a few nasty surprises, but they win. But then you do want that finale or that set piece battle to be really on the line.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And
I think it is better to have multiple combatants maybe for those big battles because that way the odds, you know, if you've just got one boss, he can get locked down obviously very easily, but also just you're rolling less dice because you're just rolling for this one guy, right?
yeah.
Or monster. So the dice might not favor you, but if you've got, you know, 4 or 5 big threats, then it's
Yeah.
be more predictable the damage output of your monsters. You know?
Yeah, it's also a matter of like keeping the battle more dynamic and interesting for the players too, because if you only like, single bad guys are almost always not great boss battles ever. Or they're not great any type of battles when there's just one monster, because usually that results in a surround and pound. And once
Yeah.
everybody gets their initial positions, they don't have to think about anything. They don't have. They just like roll the dice, do damage. Roll the dice, do damage. Oh, I got hit. Take damage. Roll the dice, do damage. I got hit. What spell am I gonna cast? Oh, the blaster spell. You know what I mean? So single combatants are almost always underwhelming. Not necessarily because of power, but because of how interesting it is in the game. So like, because creating a good combat is not, yeah, you want to have that power so there's a balance, you know, so it's not too easy or too hard type of thing. But even if you put that aside, like when you have multiple combatants, well, then you have some frontline fighters that are engaging the characters. You have a couple archers who are shooting at the spellcasters or the healer. And then you have a wizard over here who is doing horrible wizard stuff that might get worse. You know what I mean? And so like that creates this dynamic environment where the players, the puzzle, the challenge is more interesting, where it's like, oh, okay, we have to deal with the frontliners, right? But those archers, you can't ignore them. And that wizard, holy crap. Well, who's going to get the wizard? and who's going to take care of
Yeah.
the archers? And so it creates, whereas if you got one dragon in the middle, it's like meh. But if you could have 3 hobgoblin fighters, 2 hobgoblin archers, and 1 hobgoblin wizard, and all of a sudden you have a battle that's way more interesting than a single dragon that just breathes fire and does claws, And so I think that also is a very compelling reason to have multiple combatants. Now, the challenge to that is that means more stat blocks for you to manage. And you need to think a little bit more as a game master about how you set that battle up, Like you want the frontliners to be in the front line, the archers to be inaccessible, and the wizard to be very inaccessible because wizards are squishy. So if you do something such as have there be pillars in the room, there are 3 pillars, and the 2 archers are up on a pillar, and the wizard's on a pillar. And by the way, there's like a wall around the pillar so they can duck down after they fight. Then, so if you can start getting, now obviously you can't have that same setup in every combat because it's like, oh, we saw that before. But if you could start doing stuff like that to make it even more interesting, now you're incorporating terrain, right? And now that puzzle, it's a combat obviously, but the puzzle the players have to solve gets that much more interesting, and they have to engage in it more. And they can't just be like, oh, surround the dragon and everybody just dish damage, and eventually we're probably going to win. That's just boring.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how even quite boring combatants can pose a threat. Like I ran an ambush the other day, and imagine a bandit that's lying down and under 3/4 cover.
Yeah.
That means it's got like an AC of like 17 and you have disadvantage to hit. And it could be at long range from you if it's firing
Yeah.
with a crossbow. So I had
Sure.
these bandits and they couldn't take them out because
Right.
they had some frontline fighters to deal with as well.
Yeah.
So they're just getting gradually having their hit points eroded away by these bandits. And it was quite an interesting dynamic situation where they couldn't ignore the bandits, but they also they had to make decisions basically.
Yeah, for sure.
Where to focus their energies. So yeah, the way you set up with terrain is really important. Cover, elevations, just as many fun features as some hazards. I always like to include like a bridge or water features or something you can fall off, right? Or somewhere where you can push people into and they're gonna take some damage,
Yeah.
like a lava flow or something.
I think something else too, like I have a list here I keep looking at of the different ideas I have down. Another thing that I've noticed makes adventures in games way more interesting is voices and mannerisms. Like
Okay.
it is such the games I've been in as a player and the ones I game master, it's a night and day difference when you have game masters who are using voices or mannerisms, and when you have like this is obviously we're back to social interaction, talking and stuff.
Yeah.
But when you have players who are also doing it, so one of the things as a game master is I always try to use voices and mannerisms because it makes the game so much better. It just does. Like I've been in games where there's no voices and mannerisms, and like it can be a solid game, but if the game master and players had been using special voices and stuff, that would have elevated it to another level, And so, but mannerisms too. So it's not just about like talking this way and always having this certain way that you're talking. It's not just about that. But like one of the things I did in a recent game is I imagined this was like a sailor, and the sailor, I think it was the first mate, but he was always chewing on a piece of rope, like a thick piece of rope. So every time he spoke, I was pretending I had this piece of rope in my mouth. So I was like talking like this the whole time, with this weird, so like, but I had that mannerism every single time, So I think that if you incorporate voices, but also mannerisms, I think that just makes your game better, And if you have players that do that, you're just like, it's like next level,
I think it's a great way when you use a device like that, like this guy is always chewing on a rope. You don't have to worry that your players are going to forget your NPCs, right?
Right.
They're going to remember that guy. They might not remember his name, but at least they remember everything they said to him.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have to retell the whole story.
Yeah. And I literally was thinking too, I was like, I should go get a piece of rope out of my garage and just cut it off so that every time the first mate talks, I grab my piece of rope, put it in my mouth, and then I literally have it. Like that's so I'm if I
And
remember.
if you're not good at voices, yeah, use props. That's a great tip actually.
Yeah. Well, I think
Because
the biggest misunderstanding I think that people have with voices is like they're like, oh, I have to do accents, like if I'm a dwarf, I got to talk like this, you know what I mean? Or they think they have to replicate a real world accent. I think that's the wrong way to approach it, you know. I think if you just change your voice, just change it, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to be evil, you just lower your voice and talk a little differently, you know? My female voices are horrible. But there's lots of different ways you can change your voice without having to try to replicate a real world accent, like a Scottish accent or, Irish or whatever. Like, so I think that a lot of
change your
time
vocabulary as well.
you could. Yeah, absolutely. Uh-huh. Yeah,
Use
like for
longer.
instance, I've noticed in real life there are some people that will say, "You see here." They'll always be saying there are certain like expressions they repeat constantly, or like if you take like a Valley Girl, I was like I was out the other day and they have like these expressions that they'll use frequently, and so if you think of that sort of thing too and you incorporate that like you're saying your vocabulary, then that's another way that you can role play that character, that NPC, and that'll just make the game much more fun, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a good tip. Like every NPC that you kind of want to have a meaningful interaction with, try and think of one quirk for them
Yeah.
that you can role play.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then one of our chatters here says they suck at being consistent with voices. And so
Yeah.
what I do is as much as possible, when I know I'm going to have a reoccurring NPC, I make a note about what voice I used for them, and that way the next time I have that NPC, I'll remember and I'll be able to do it. And the last time I played my Salt Marsh game, I forgot. There was this council meeting, and then they left, right? And then they had another council meeting, and I forgot the accent I was doing for one of the council members. And so I just asked my players, I was like, because I forgot to take a note, right? And I was like, guys, the last time I was doing this Edda lady, I was using like this Irish accent, right? Like this sing-songy Irish female accent, and that's right. And they're like, yeah, that's what you were doing. Oh, okay, cool. And then I immediately took a note of that, and then I went on. So sometimes if I forget what accent I was using or what my mannerisms, I'll just ask my players because they might remember, because I'm like changing my voices all the time for all the different NPCs and monsters and stuff. So yeah, I'm not gonna remember unless I take a note.
Yeah. But that's where having the quirk is, that could be your
Right. Yep.
spell,
Yeah. Yeah. Or the chewing the rope, or always scratching your head, or picking your teeth. Just imagine if you have an NPC who's just like, yeah, all right, I'm sure I can help you with that. And your players are going to be like, what's wrong with Luke? Or what's wrong with Duncan? But then they're going to be like, oh, this is the NPC. He's always picking at his teeth.
Forgot to floss before the session.
Yeah, exactly. Or he just likes chicken. He likes eating chicken. He's always eating chicken, and then he's just sitting there, trying to get it out of his teeth. So yeah, those are definitely ways to make NPCs memorable and much more interesting. So I think that kind of piggybacks onto another really, and I don't know to what extent game masters have any locus of control over this, but it cannot be understated how much good players improve a game. Like, it is insane. So I run games at conventions a lot, and a lot of times I'll run 2 to 3 games at a convention, and it's the exact same adventure, exact same dungeon master, right? The only difference is the players. Okay, one game is off the charts fun, and we're all loving it. The next game is kind of like, as a game master, I'm just like, this game is not that great. We're having, like yesterday when I ran it, amazing. Today, it's not happening, man. It's like just, meh. And then the third time I run it, it's like, oh, it's amazing. We're all having fun, And so like, again, the only variable that changes the players, and so like having good players really changes the fun everybody has and how good the game is, you know.
Plus, it's a perfect get out clause for us GMs, right? Oh no, it wasn't us. It
Oh,
was it
I
was
mean,
players.
yeah, well, it doesn't work for your regular group, I suppose, because, you know, but and I don't, like I said, I don't know that what game masters can really do about that, because sometimes we don't
I
really,
guess we can encourage them with better habits. I think
yeah.
I've written a couple of blog posts about how to become a better player,
Oh,
but
okay.
sometimes you don't want to necessarily, you don't want to necessarily share it in case they take it the wrong way,
Yeah, that's the rough thing,
Uh,
like I
so
have
yeah, maybe. Mm.
my biggest pet peeve is the side conversations when I'm trying to be a game master, you know. Um,
Mm.
but it's like, geez, man, am I gonna constantly be like reprimanding this one player who always has side conversations? It's like, how much of the police force do I want to be here, really? You know what I mean?
Oh, hello. Uh,
I can still hear you and see
Cutting
you.
out.
Am I cutting out or are you cutting out?
Hello.
I can still hear you. I can still see chat. Is everybody in chat? Everybody in chat can still see us.
Oh, hello.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Did I? Yes. Did I cut out?
No,
You cut
you
out for
you,
me.
you were here the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah, you were here the whole time.
Well, yeah. If I was just looking blank face, it was because you'd gone dead for me. So
Oh yeah.
I think my internet may not be the very
Oh, that's
best.
cool.
Put
Hey,
myself around.
you want to take a quick bio break while we're at it?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. We will be back in a few moments, ladies and gentlemen.
See? All good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You good to go?
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Enjoying
right.
it. Yeah. Is there anything you want to touch on that we haven't covered? We'll just.
Yeah, I mean, I got a few other things jotted down here.
Okay.
So one of the things too that I think is important when you're running a game is the idea of running. I don't really have a really good way to say this or be super eloquent about it, but it's like just running a smooth game. And what I mean by that is So I've been in games where the game isn't smooth. Like the game master might have to constantly look things up in the book, or there isn't there's a lot of downtime and pauses, or there isn't like constant progression, of doing something, and you're just kind of in this quagmire of not a whole lot's going on, or it's just this roughshod game. And I was in a game like this once, and it was not good, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why. And then afterward, as I was thinking about it, I was like, "Oh, it's not smooth. It wasn't smooth. The game master wasn't prepared well enough, but they were also looking things up in a book a lot, as opposed to just making a quick ruling so we could keep on playing the game, you know." And there wasn't forward progress toward. We weren't playing the game the whole time. There were large periods of time where we weren't actually playing. We were waiting for something, whatever it happened to be. So it wasn't a smooth game. It was really rough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was that partly because like the hook or the call to adventure wasn't strong enough to propel you forward, or it was more an issue of he was really just running it badly, he or she?
I think mostly it was the game master wasn't. It was how they were running the game. They weren't controlling the flow of the game, and they weren't controlling the table either. As far as like players were having lots of side conversations, or they were derailing things, and the game master, he wasn't like controlling the table very well either. So this was mostly like how the game master was running the game. And
Yeah.
it could
You
have been
have to
a.
have
Go ahead.
you have to have a bit of authority sometimes, don't you? And you have to
Yeah.
recognize
Yeah.
that when things are drifting a bit, and get things back on track, and just
Yeah.
encourage everyone and make a decision or give them another prompt to react to, so
Yeah.
that you can get to that next scene, that kind of really
Yeah.
furthers the story. I think maybe lack of confidence or lack of experience might be why
For sure. Yeah.
sometimes dungeon masters sit back, or games masters, and they want to give the players all the time and space. We had this issue come up in it
Yeah.
was actually my friend's game,
Mm-hmm.
and well, I can't even remember the situation, but we'd spent ages discussing pretty minor things, and afterwards, one of the players was like, I'm all for discussion, but it feels like we just had like it was a 2 hour session. It was online, so it was a shorter one. But
Uh huh.
he was like, well, it just feels like we've done literally nothing the whole session. And then
Oh.
the very next session, we had to like get some prisoners out of a pit with a
Uh huh.
rope, but there was like a bad guy in the prison.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just like, you know what, just explain me how you do it, and it's done.
Right.
Because you don't,
Yeah.
you don't really need to role play every this in a round situation, not a
Uh huh.
combat situation. Like, it's not that dramatic. It's not that interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
you hold your bow up and you threaten the bad guy,
Uh huh.
so that he can't interfere, and then you get the prisoners out with a rope. Great, done.
Yeah.
And we're able to move on. So he learned immediately from his mistake of he wanted to give us the agency to
Right.
make all the decisions ourselves.
Yeah.
But between four people, all different characters, all
Mm-hmm.
different, I'm talking about in real life, we're all different personalities.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, plus it being online, where it's sometimes harder to communicate and reach a consensus, maybe.
Yeah.
It was just drifting into nowhere, and then he solved it. Yeah, so the next session. But I think it is something worth highlighting, because this is an experienced games master, and even he had to, learn that lesson a little bit.
Yeah. I think the whole committee discussion thing, as a game master, like when your group is discussing how they want to do something or what they're going to do, you gotta pay attention to that, and then be ready to step in once they're going in circles, or once the discussion has been long enough. It's like after 10 or 15 minutes, like, do we really need to keep talking about how you're going to go into the castle? Like, just tell me what you're going to do. Like,
Yeah,
so what are you guys doing? Like, just kind of being this like perpetual voice of like what I'll constantly do in situations like this is, when they're doing this, I'll just, it's as simple as saying, so what are you guys doing? So what are you guys doing? Right. And a lot of times what I'll do also is, when you have these decisions, they get this decision paralysis, this decision loop, it's usually two or three players who are doing all the talking, right? and they're like this, and then there's like a couple players who are pretty quiet, you know, and so like a lot of times what I'll do, especially if I know one of the players is very prone to taking action, especially ill-advised actions, is after they've been talking, I'll be like, oh, hold on, guys. All right, John, what is your character doing? And John's like, I'm breaking the door down. Okay, athletics roll. And then so sometimes you could just get them out of the loop by asking a quiet person what they're doing. Because sometimes, sometimes they're being quiet because they've disengaged from the discussion. They're tired of the discussion. They want to do something. And sometimes they'll do anything to just do something, you know. And so if you ask them, you might get stuff kicked off, especially if you have a player that you know is prone to doing stupid stuff at the wrong times. You can just doing anything is better than doing nothing, you know. So
I will say, from a player's point of view, it is annoying when you're like trying to come up with that plan and then someone just kicks down the door. But it probably does make for a better session.
yeah.
And if it's in a guys kicking down the door, then another half hour of discussing that same.
I guess from the game master's point of view, and this might just be how I run my games, but like, sometimes it does matter how you approach a problem, but at another level, sometimes it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like, okay, the dungeon or whatever, the lair has 3 entrances. Does it really matter which entrance you go in? You know? Not really. So just pick one. So I feel like a lot of times players create these conundrums when there is no conundrum. Like, each door is a good door to go through, you know? Each entrance is fine, you know? Because as a game master, like, unless they do something incredibly stupid, right? I'm going to adjust things to make sure that we have an appropriately challenging adventure. Unless they do something incredibly dumb, right? But most of the time they don't, you know? So sometimes there is no good solution. It's just pick one, you know?
Yeah, I think, that's when you absolutely have to step in, is when, and maybe we're doing something wrong when we create a decision where there isn't a pro and con, you know? Maybe we need to make sure the decisions, like, there is a bit of evidence they can use to make a what's the word, a guided decision,
an informed
about
decision,
which door is best, you know?
Yeah.
Informed decision, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's probably a better decision point, is one with some clues and some evidence that might lead them to a decision. But there's always going to be some cases that come up where it's A or B, and it really doesn't matter, and they don't know that it doesn't matter. So then it's your fiat to step in and say, guys, this isn't. You can metagame. You can just say, this isn't a big one. You know, choose.
If it comes down to it, you could, yeah. Yeah. I think another point along these lines a little bit is the idea of allowing all of your players to have a spotlight or share in the action. And what I mean by that, it's not necessarily like before the adventure begins, developing specific parts of the adventure where each player has a moment to shine. Like, if you want to do that, that's fine. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is it simply will be a matter of fact that if you're running a group of 4 or 5 players, you're going to have some quiet players. And it's the game master's responsibility to give those players an opportunity to talk. Because you're going to, a lot of times in most groups, you know, you're going to have some players who will dominate the table time because they're just very talkative and they're just going to talk. And then the other players are quiet. The game master has to quiet down the talkative ones and give the other ones a chance to talk. And it's as simple as saying, okay, Naomi, what are you doing? Or what are you saying? You know, John, what are you doing? What are you saying? It's very simple, but you just have to be present, you know, and be like, you know, just socially paying attention to things, you know, and remember to give those people the opportunity to say something. Like, I have one player right now in my Ghost of Salt Marsh game. She's very quiet, but I'll tell you what, as soon as I ask her what she's doing, she immediately tells me all the stuff she wants to do. So she's literally just waiting for her chance, you know, to do something. Yeah. And it's kind of like when I'm in a game, I don't like interrupting other people. Like, I want to do stuff, but maybe I don't want to interrupt people, you know, but I'm ready to go once I get called on, you know.
that's a really important tip, to keep everyone engaged. Another thing you can do is just have an NPC directly talk to them, their character.
Yes, exactly.
So
Yeah.
no, you stay out of this one, Mr. Bard. You aren't being addressed,
Uh-huh.
I'm talking to the quiet thief in the corner or whatever, or
Yeah.
the ranger, and they have to answer for themselves, and get them involved a bit that way as well.
Oh, I agree.
But
Because
yeah, I do try and run a little mental checklist around the table
yeah.
if I feel that someone's being ignored or hasn't said something for a while or done something for a while.
Yeah. I feel like, gosh, at least half of running a great game has less to do with like the adventure itself and more to do with the things that the game master is actively doing, during the game. You know what I mean? Because I imagine you could probably have two different game masters, same adventure, and one the people love, the players love, and the other one the players are like,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, one thing is, if you get the banter going, that always makes for a fun adventure,
Yeah.
right? So
Oh, for
yeah,
sure.
but-
I have one player in some of my games right now that just instantly his presence makes everything more exciting because of his banter and his talkative nature. It's just like, oh, this is fun. I was in a convention game this once with a guy who was playing a bard. And it was an amazing game. It was that same game that I was telling you where the game master was having everything attack first. And it was horrible game master. But I had fun during that game because one of the players was role playing a bard and he was literally improvising songs on the fly, like during combat, out of combat, and it was just amazing. Like verses and singing it. He was literally singing it and it was just like, oh my gosh, this guy. This is
that's next
crazy.
level. Yeah, I
And it
mean,
was funny. It was funny too, the way he was doing it. It's like, oh man, this is awesome. Yeah. So
yeah, someone like that is gold on the table for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. All right,
So you
so
can, you can get an NPC to insult them a bit. That
yeah.
can get some banter going, or you can get them talking about themselves. Like, hey, if you're just changing the pace, like this slows the pace down of the game. So you don't you do it after a combat and you're building up to the next one. Is a why don't you all tell a story while you're on the road? Of your childhood or something.
Yeah.
So you can get it. You can get them talking amongst themselves a bit, and sometimes good players will banter with each other in character when they're telling the
Right.
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think allowing them space to be able to do that sort of like role play, social interaction among
yeah.
themselves, that's important. Yeah. Because some groups love that. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice if you can facilitate that because it isn't always given much room to breathe.
Yeah.
Especially in like a frenetic dungeon environment where you're always dealing with what's coming at you.
Yeah, for sure. Tell folks about your book again, in case they're just joining us. Duncan here
Oh,
wrote a
okay.
book that you guys can get. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, so it's just come out this January. It's called the Creative Games Master. It's quite a mouthful. The Creative Game Master's Guide to Extraordinary Locations and How to Design Them. It's a book of 30 locations that you can drop into your game. Um, as I was saying earlier, the idea is that each location isn't a prescribed adventure. It's a versatile tool, and it comes with a set of adventure hooks on how you could use it. There's also a chapter at the front of the book on how to design your own great locations. So it's got quite a lot of random tables as well. So you can roll, maybe you don't want another tower made out of stone. Maybe you roll on the table and you get a tower made out of flesh or blood, or a tower made out of I don't know, mirrors.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And the ideas start coming. I got a list of different themes. So you might get this building has a farming theme, or it has a rot, decay, and disease theme. One of my favorite tables is I've got a list distinguishing features table. So you can always
Yeah.
make a cool location a bit cooler, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
By adding that twist. So here's one, like, being rude here is considered polite and vice versa. That might be a fun one. I think I got that.
Yeah.
I got that from a Spanish bar. I think it was. I read a story about the Spanish bar during, I think it was during like the economic crisis,
Uh-huh.
where like they were like, you can come in here and be as rude as you like to our staff, and our staff will be rude to you. It's just a way of letting off steam. So you go in and you
That
just
sounds
you
familiar. I think somebody was telling me about a bar like that, but it was in the US. It was somewhere in the US, but that's the whole thing. That's the whole vibe. So literally, like you go in and you're treating them poorly, they treat you poorly back, and it's just like, oh, this is
yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah, somebody was telling me about that.
Imagine, imagine your players walk into that bar, but they don't know that
Yes.
that's.
Yeah. That would be cool. Yeah.
So yeah, so there's actually the distinguishing features table. There's actually 10 of them. One in chapter one and one for each of the terrain chapters. So you got a
Okay.
lot of distinguishing features.
Sweet.
Each one should make a cool location. If you like world building, I think
Yeah.
you'll like this book.
Sweet. That's awesome. And then I have a link down in the description too for folks. They can check that out. And you can also, he has blog posts too over on Hipsters and Dragons that you might take a peek at and see if you like that sort of thing. So, all right. Sweet.
Yeah, I'm not super active there. I try and get out a post every month or so because yeah, just it's
Yeah.
more sustainable with my day job. I wanted to do it every week, but
Mhm.
then I found it takes me 2 or 3 days to write a blog post. I don't know how long it takes you to record a video, Luke. It's
It's, I
the
don't
script,
know.
and, yeah.
Well, this
And then,
depends. A script for a 15-minute video is probably between an hour and 2 hours. Filming it is probably about 20 minutes. Editing it is probably an hour. It's not usually that bad. And then I gotta stage it and stuff. But writing it is the most time-consuming part for sure.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah,
Everything else after the script is written, everything else just it's pretty easy. It's not that bad.
yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely respect the writing aspect because writing's not easy.
No,
Everyone thinks
and
they're good writer, but very few people are good writers. All right.
it's weird how long it just takes to put in like when you blog, you have to like put in links and things like that. It's just
Oh yeah.
formatting, just surprising how long it takes, and then proofreading everything to within an inch of its life.
Oh
Just
man.
take.
Yeah. I don't even bother with half that stuff.
Well, that'd be one good thing, I guess, for being YouTube. I mean, you've got to do a lot of extra editing work, but
Yeah.
because you speak naturally, it's about getting your ideas across in natural speech.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you make a syntactical error, right? Or
Oh sure.
it's
Yeah, I
about
gotcha.
about getting your meaning across.
Yeah, well, for most of my videos, I script in advance, and I have a teleprompter, and so I'm literally just reading what I wrote. But
Yeah,
I do try to write it. I do try to write it in the way that I naturally speak, so that
yeah,
when I read it from the teleprompter, it sounds like natural speaking.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a little different. And then if you screw something up or you go on a little tangent, then it's not a big deal.
That,
But
yeah, that adds some flavor, right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Especially nowadays, I'm like very busy. So like everything just gets like, I try to do everything as quickly as I can. So it's like, all right, this is just going to get done fast. And then there's just get this video out of here and all this kind of stuff. So,
Just busy with RPG stuff. Yeah, you're launching a new book, right?
yeah, well, so we just got done with, so what was it? It was like August or September, one of those two. We did a Kickstarter, Feybound. And so that Kickstarter finished, and now we're in the layout portion of it. So we just kind of got to babysit the layout. Once the layout gets done, then we'll be off to printing it, shortly thereafter. And then fulfilling that. But at this point, Feybound, it's mostly just project management. We have people that do the different things, so just kind of oversee that work and make sure we're making forward progress, and then reviewing what they've done to make sure that everything looks good. And then we have another Kickstarter, Layers and Legends 3, that's coming up in April. And that's going to be, so we put out Layers Legends 1, Layers Legends 2, and then now we're doing the third one, Layers Legends 3. It's actually going to be 3 books. It's the Layers of Legends 3 project. That's the project title. It has 3 books. There's a Layers of Legends book. there's a loot and lore book, and for number 3, we're doing a companion book that has even more resources for game masters in it. So this Kickstarter in April will be for 3 books. So that'll be fun. But the good news is that like all of the content is written really. And at this point, we started this last year, sometime in October or November. We started revamping the content, making changes to it, compiling it together so that it would be publishable in chapters and stuff like that, and then doing different things. So we're currently working on that. So, but even once something is written, there's still a lot of work to be done. So we've already begun that. So once that Kickstarter launches, we're really just got to get a bunch of artwork. And then once we have the artwork, do layout and then print books and stuff, So we got that going, and then we also launched a new game system called No Quarter in January. So that's on our Patreon. So all of our patrons have No Quarter. So Zach and I are always designing stuff for that game system, and we're playtesting all the time. And we're meeting about it and talking about it. And we literally last week on Wednesday, we did a redesign of some core game elements, just completely overhauled a whole bunch of stuff in response to playtesting that we've done. In response to other people's feedback on the game system, we revamped a whole bunch of things. So we took a lot of things back to square one, and now we're getting those rules into play, and we're beginning playtesting that.
A D20 system or
No, not a D20 system. Everybody and their brother is doing D20 systems.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, D&D 5e is so successful. Let's copy D&D 5e but make changes to it. I told Zach, I was like, dude, Zach's my employee. He's my lead game designer and project manager, does a bunch of stuff. But I told Zach, I was like, dude, if we're going to make our own game system, there is no way I'm just going to copy what somebody else has done. I want it to be something different. And so it is a D100 roll under system, which is similar to Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu uses that same mechanic.
Yeah.
It's also not a class-based system. You do not pick your class. Like, you do not say I'm a wizard or I'm a barbarian or I'm a fighter. It's a skill-based system. So you decide when you create your character, which skills you want to have, and then as you level up, which skills you're going to train in. And so you can essentially customize your character and create the character you want. That's the idea, And so we're trying to. I've always been interested. The first time I played Call of Cthulhu and saw the D100 roll under mechanic, I was like, I like this a lot.
Yeah.
And I've always liked that mechanic.
The problem with it is it's harder to create different difficulty levels, right?
For what?
Because normally with these roll under systems, you kind of have like, let's say you have 55 out of 100, so you have to roll under 55. But what happens if it's hard to change the DC, as it were?
Right. So essentially, the way you solve that is, if the roll under number is 60, there's what you call a great success, which has to be 30 or under. And then there's a extreme success, which is 15 or under. So if a character is attempting something that's very challenging, the game master might say, well, you know what? A regular success isn't going to cut it. You need to have a great success or an extreme success. So that's baked in, and that's pretty easy to do,
Some systems haven't done that in the past, haven't they?
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm
glad you baked that in because.
The only D100 system I'm familiar with is Call of Cthulhu. That's the only one I've ever played. So I don't know any other systems that do that. I'm sure there are some, but I'm not familiar with them. But yeah, so that has that solution, and then also we're trying to make it so that it's very fast paced, and so far we have combats you can get through an entire combat in like 5 minutes. They're lightning fast. That might be a little too fast, and that was the problem we had, because if you think about it, can you imagine if you're a game master, and you're designing an adventure for your players to go on, okay? And let's say you have 10 different rooms, and there's like, let's say 6 combats, okay? If each combat takes 5 minutes, that's how long? 30 minutes? Let's be charitable and say 45 minutes. Exploration elements take what? Another 30, 45 minutes? An hour and a half. A 10-room dungeon is done in an hour and a half. as a game master, can you imagine the amount of prep work you have to do to run a 4-hour game session? So we actually, at our
Yeah.
last meeting, we were like, combat's going too quickly is also a problem because it means the game master has to prep more. Okay, now
Yeah.
we need to make sure. So anyway, we identified that as a problem, and our combats are too fast. We got to make them slower, and so we're working on that, So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, one good thing about D&D is sometimes you need to buy yourself some time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean,
go
yeah.
into combat.
D&D is a little bit toward the extreme of combat
Too
length,
far, yeah, yeah.
right? Because it can take a half an hour, 45 minutes. I've had D&D battles that last 2 hours, but I will say this: even more so, it's Pathfinder 2 combats.
Yeah,
I have had trivial combats that have taken over an hour,
yeah.
where there's zero threat to the players, zero threat, and it takes over an hour. And I'm just like, well, now to be fair, we do have 6 players, right? So anytime you have more players, it definitely makes combats take longer. There's no question about it. So yeah, you got to put that in there because that is an important, like, bullet or footnote or whatever. But anyway, point is, we've been working on designing that, and we're constantly working on that. And so we have a lot of plates that you're spinning, I guess is the term or the expression. So yeah. So, it's fun stuff.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of designing my own system as well.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I really like the Arcane series. This kind of semi-steampunk series that
Oh
was
yeah.
based on like League of Legends. Did you watch it?
League of Legends. I don't think
Uh,
so.
it's a brilliant animated series.
Oh,
It's
okay.
absolutely stunning to watch.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Just
not. Yeah. Okay.
every frame is like a masterpiece of composition,
Oh,
and
okay.
there's some good characters in there as well. I
Interesting.
definitely recommend checking it out. I was so inspired by it. I was like, I want to like have a role playing game where I can live out some of those fantasies. They kind of live in this kind of uh, like it's kind of like a European city, like Art Nouveau era, like 1800s kind of technology. Um, but I mean, they've got magic as well, but
Yeah.
it's not quite wizardry. It's more like low magic selling, I would
Oh,
say.
okay. I got you. Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought, wow, actually, there's not many steampunk RPGs out there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Blaze in the Dark is kind of steampunk.
Is it
It's
okay?
very noir though. It's very
Mm.
and it's quite prescriptive. You're criminals in a world with no light, running heist. It's really good.
Oh,
I mean, I haven't
interesting.
actually played it, but I've read it.
Yeah,
I'm
I've
intrigued by the
I've heard
lore
of
of
it,
it.
but yeah, I have never played it before either. Yeah.
Um, and I think that's. Oh, oh, sorry, you've gone dead on the stream for me. So I don't know
I,
if
I'm dead.
can't see you. Oh, hello.
I mean,
Now I can see you again.
yeah,
Now
I
I can
don't
see.
see any issues.
Okay.
I don't think. Yeah, it
Okay.
looks like
No,
everything's
I think
fine.
it must be my internet. You're just cutting out on my internet, but
Yeah, well, that's all right. I mean, we're gonna wrap things up anyway. So hey,
yeah.
so Duncan wrote a book. If you did not hear that plug, it's the link to it is down in the description. It is essentially extraordinary locations. You can plug and play, drag and drop into your games and stuff like that. Looks pretty cool. So feel free to check that out. So thanks so much, dude, for coming on. It was a cool conversation, just talking about the different stuff. So I appreciate it, man.
Wait, thanks so much for inviting me on. That was very kind of you, and yeah, I really enjoyed the chat, and I think I learned something as well. So some good
Cool.
tips. Hopefully,
Awesome.
hopefully the readers picked up some tips as well. Listeners.
All right, awesome. Well, we're done here, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time we stream and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for hanging out with us, and have yourselves a wonderful day. It's not quite evening yet. All right, let me
It
find
is
my
for me.
yeah.
It's supper time.